More disturbances in the force. Deportations not considered a deterrent to Bules behaving badly. And Bali governor to host top local officials to discuss tourism woes. Stay tuned for details. Selamat siang. Welcome to the latest news from Bali and Indonesia. This is May 30th, 2023, and my name is Bruce. What's the weather like today? Beautiful but windy. 30.5 degrees Celsius at noon, and the humidity 62% here in Kampung Bugis, and the wind speed is a gusty 31.4 kilometers per hour. It is blowing, but the sky is clear. It's a lovely day, and I hope wherever you are, it is lovely as well. So, continuing worries and woes and discussions and proposals about Bules behaving badly here in Bali. This is not going to end. I said this months ago, and it is continuing, and it's on the verge of getting worse. Let's take a look. Deportation of Caucasians doesn't make a deterrence. Bali Tourism Office denies, not viral, not followed up. So as I've been discussing here over the last month or so, deportations continue, but according to some observers and stakeholders in tourism in Bali, the deportations don't seem to be working. According to tourism observer Professor Dr. Putu Anam, he said, well, bad behavior is continuing even though people are being deported. He said, we need to get information to incoming tourists quickly and completely. He said, the hope is to be selective. In my opinion, more detailed information should be provided from the start. When visiting Bali, these are the rules. If you don't want to, it's better not to visit. If you break the rules, you will be punished. He continued, one or two might be stressful, but there are those who deliberately consider themselves citizens of a higher class. This is what is important, right? As if they are higher than Balinese people. Equality shouldn't be like that. So he said, not only when they're here, but when they're traveling, these rules should be available to them so they know exactly what they can do and can't do, and that's the do's and don'ts, which in the last video I said was already done and had been signed off by the governor and supposedly is going to be socialized sometime soon, I guess. He said the government doesn't need to be kept busy by tourists. They don't need to be running around chasing after bad tourists, like a parent might be chasing around after bad children. He didn't say that, I did. From January through this month, 129 people have been deported, 15 people have been processed for criminal acts, and 1,100 were processed for traffic violations. According to Governor Koster, foreign tourists visiting Bali must behave in an orderly and disciplined manner and comply with Indonesian laws and regulations in order to maintain the good name of the country of origin of foreign tourists and the good name and image of Bali tourism. According to Pak Pohlmann, the head of the Bali Provincial Tourism Office, he said, if you want tourism to continue, all parties must be able to maintain a positive image of Bali tourism, both nationally and internationally. He said that in order to maintain the good name of Bali, as much as possible, we avoid uploading to social media. This is going to be talked about later, because it will have a bad impact on Bali itself. If you find tourists acting up, immediately report it to the authorities so they can act on it immediately. And that's the Bali Task Force that I was talking about in the last video. And he said the term not viral, not followed up for these naughty acts doesn't really apply. He said you don't need to make things viral in order to get them followed up. He said this is just making things more complicated. Additionally, he said there's the ITE law, the internet law, which limits uploads on social media. And we're going to talk about that in another segment coming up. So the Bali Police Chief Inspector General had said that there was going to be a ban on the viral acts in Bali. So a ban on making this into a social media circus. And, well, there was a lot of blowback to that right away. It was then walked back some and said, no, you can put things up on social media as long as it's not pornographic. If the authorities deem it to be pornographic, then the person that uploads this can be prosecuted and put in jail. The ITE laws are pretty severe here. And the governor reiterated that he wants people to report to the appropriate authorities, not put stuff up online. Some pushback on this before we get to the second main story. Niluh Djelantik, who I've talked about many times, and well, as I've said, she's a somewhat controversial figure. Niluh Djelantik will continue to make foreign tourists viral in Bali. And she's pushing back. So Niluh Djelantik spoke out about the statement by the Bali provincial government and the regional police asking netizens not to make viral foreign tourists indiscriminately, especially those who act and violate regulations on the island of the gods. This request was filed because it has the potential to violate the Information and Electronic Transactions Law, the ITE law. Niluh Djelantik said, "Now, where's the fault? What categories, if made viral by the public, can be subjected to the ITE law?" She said, "If now there's a statement like that, potentially violating the ITE law, maybe I should meet with the governor." And she questioned why the provincial government considers Bali tourism to be tarnished through reports of violating tourists. She said they have a right to reply. So they said something, we answered, and we've also asked something. And so she wants to have some dialogue about this. She emphasized that the tourist videos that were viral were not there to spread pornography. And she used as an example the naked lady and Ubud at the dance that I talked about in the last video. And she said all the private parts were covered up. This was not pornography. People were reporting this so that the authorities would act on it. She said that her goal was for institutions to follow up on this. She said it works every time. The institution is very grateful to Mbak Niluh, the Immigration Department, the Ministry of Law and Human Rights, really appreciates what I have done. Regardless of the potential to violate the ITE law, she said that she is going to continue to post acts of foreigners who violate the law here. What is certain, I will continue to post, but in each of my posts there are solutions. Those solutions should be carried out by a team of experts. She said she would keep Bali safe and comfortable, not only for Indonesian citizens, but also for foreigners, for tourists who are really qualified, not the types of tourists that we've seen recently, which are not sweet and don't have good manners. So pushback has come from other areas as well. The well-known Instagram site, the Moscow Cabang Bali, I think that's what it's called, has pushed back and said, let people decide if this stuff shouldn't be put up or not, as well as human rights organizations here saying, you can't just tell us not to post this stuff. This is not done as pornography. We have a right to show people violating the laws here. Okay, let's get to the second main story about the governor hosting a big meeting. Megawati asks Koster to seriously handle naughty Caucasians in Bali, invites Walkot-Regents. So, Ibu Megawati, the 5th president of Indonesia and the head of the PDIP, said that the governor needs to get more serious about the behavior of foreigners here who are violating laws, posting pictures of themselves naked, who are showing up at things naked, who are causing traffic problems, etc., etc. So she told the governor he needs to have a meeting with all of the regents and all of the mayors in Bali. And so there is a written invitation for the meeting, which is going to be held tomorrow on the 31st, according to this article, at the governor's office. All regents and mayors must attend in person without being represented by somebody else, a lower level. This is supposed to be top level. And the governor said, I've been told by Ibu Megawati, if somebody doesn't show up, let her know who it is. And the head of the Bali Tourism Office, Pohlmann, who I just talked about a minute ago, confirmed that this letter existed. The invitation is a form of Megawati's concern for naughty behavior of tourists in Bali. And you remember, I think a couple of weeks ago, in a video, Megawati was here for a 100th anniversary ceremony, and she was complaining about the behavior of tourists here, as well as calling for a ban on new construction of hotels and villas here. And I'm going to have a story about that at the end here, which is pretty fascinating. According to Pohlmann, the meeting is going to discuss improving tourism management in Bali. The governance includes do's and don'ts rules and appeals to the public not to arbitrarily make viral the delinquency of foreign tourists. They're really focused on this, the government, because they're convinced that by spreading this, it's tarnishing the image of Bali. And so what about this meeting? Maybe this article throws some light on this. A series of foreign national actions in Bali, the governor will implement a comprehensive policy on tourism governance. Responding to the actions of foreign tourists, the governor has plans to implement a comprehensive policy on tourism governance in Bali. This is done so that later case handling will be carried out in general, not on a case-by-case basis. The plan for this policy is supposed to be implemented in the coming weeks. In implementing it, the provincial government of Bali will also consider the psychology of the Balinese people, especially tourism actors who are currently recovering their economic conditions after the pandemic. This is to be done so that there's no counterproductivity between regulations and conditions in the field. The governor hopes that the implementation of this comprehensive policy on Bali tourism governance can create culture-based, quality, and dignified tourism in order to be stronger, realizing culture-based quality and dignified tourism. And in what's becoming a theme with the governor, the rise of foreign tourists acting up in Bali is inseparable from the visa on arrival policy, which was originally intended to accelerate recovery from the pandemic. The governor does not deny that this policy is like a double-edged sword. He said it's got good points and it's got bad points. It makes it easier for foreigners to visit Bali and for Bali to get more money and more jobs and get people back going and get the economy on track. However, on the other hand, the policy also automatically makes it easier for foreigners who are not of good quality to come to Bali and do mischief. The existence of a series of actions by Caucasians has forced the visa on arrival policy to be reviewed again by the provincial government of Bali and the central government. The governor said, "We will immediately hold a meeting with the central government to address and evaluate the visa on arrival policy so that its implementation does not make Bali tourism seem like cheap tourism." The governor said the relatively high number of deportations shows that the government is acting. In addition to all this, the governor had more to say. Koster highlights crypto transactions in Bali used by foreign tourists for payments can be threatened with jail. According to an article in Jakarta Post, there's a restaurant or shop in Seminyak that accepts cryptocurrency as payment, and a number of businesses, and according to the article, it made it seem like foreign businesses, have been advertising on social media that they will accept crypto payment for their services. The governor said Indonesia has references to statutory regulations issued by the government and Bank of Indonesia regarding transactions. There are at least 3 rules governing transactions in Indonesia. The first is Law 7 of 2011 concerning currency in essence. The law regulates that the use of currency other than rupiah as a means of payment transactions can be subject to imprisonment for a maximum of 1 year and a fine of up to 200 million rupiah. The second is related to security and fairness in foreign currency exchange, and it's regulated by Law 4 of 2023. Foreign exchange activities without a permit from Bank Indonesia are subject to imprisonment for a minimum of 1 year and a maximum of 5 years and a fine of at least 50 million rupiah and a maximum fine of 22 billion rupiah. And of course, we all know that there's still currency traders out there who are working illegally. This is like the whack-a-mole. You close it down and it opens up somewhere else. This is a never-ending thing and has been going on as long as I've been here. And then there is the third regulation. This is number 17.3 PBI 2015 concerning the obligation to use rupiah currency within the territory of the Republic of Indonesia. If you violate it, you'll be subject to administrative sanctions in the form of a written warning, an obligation to pay a fine, and a ban on participating in payment traffic. And this has been around for a long time. Companies, businesses, restaurants, individuals are not supposed to be advertising things here in dollars or rubles or crypto, bitcoins, or whatever. You're supposed to use rupiahs. Of course, this is widely violated, including in some places by the government. According to the head of the Bank of Indonesia in Bali, cryptocurrencies are only allowed to use as assets Cryptocurrency as an asset is being supervised by the Commodity Futures Trading Regulatory Agency. And so it's only an asset. It's not to be used to pay for transactions. There are 138 licensed money changers and 500 branches throughout Bali. This is done in order to provide a sense of fairness and security for tourists in exchanging their currency into rupiah. The Bali Regional Police have already started investigating places that accept cryptocurrency as payment. However, this is being done quietly so that they don't spook the people that are doing it, because they said if we just go there and we say, hey, are you using cryptocurrency? They're just going to lie. They're going to say no. So we're being secretive about this. And also, in several of these articles about the cryptocurrency, there was a sentence or two about the motorcycle ban for tourists that we talked about a long time ago. And it said that this is going to be brought up again. Now, I read in one English language, news source, that it's a done deal, basically. Doesn't seem like that from what I've read. I haven't been able to find anything that says that. What I have found is that the government is going to look at this again. The governor is going to look at this again and bring it up and maybe put it into force. But there's a lot of pushback on this because there's a lot of people that have invested money, a lot of money into motorbikes who are not government sanctioned. And, well, this is going to definitely impact them. And in this article by this news source that I read, it said even foreign residents here will not be able to drive a motorcycle. I haven't seen that anywhere. I don't know. If somebody else has seen that and has a source, please leave a comment below. I would like to see it. In the last video, I talked about a lady who was showing off her genitals, and I just mentioned it. I didn't go into the whole article. Well, this has become a huge thing, and Ngurah immigration secures foreign viral actors who perform indecent actions on motorbikes. And so immigration was quick to find these people. Apparently they were staying in Legion, and an inn in Legion, and they were picked up and brought into the special class 1 immigration office in Ngurah. And the head of Ngurah immigration office, Pak Sujido, said that based on an examination, the two foreigners are Danish citizens. They entered Indonesia on, you guessed it, a VOA, and it's valid until June 7th. When they were questioned, they said, well, yeah, we did this, but we did it 7 months ago. Okay, so 7 months ago. But it went viral just recently. Yeah, they've been busted quickly. And the next article talks about this. Sandiaga Uno is getting involved in this. Sandiaga asks that Danish Caucasians who show off their vaginas be dealt with strictly. Sandiaga stated that he coordinated with immigration and other related parties. The sanctions are adjusted. The sanctions we will coordinate with immigration, he said. He didn't detail the results of the coordination, but he's asking authorities to take firm action. He wants prison sentence commensurate with the offense committed by the Danish tourist. So we're up in the game here now, talking about prison sentences. Not long ago, people that were posing naked and doing that kind of stuff, they got busted, they were brought to immigration, and they were kicked out of the country and blacklisted. Pak Sandiaga says, let's start putting them in prison. And this is something that other people have been suggesting as well, including some commenters here on this channel, that maybe that's the only way this is going to get through to some people who want to continue to violate the law. Pak Sandiaga believes that there must be strict sanctions from the authorities against this woman and other foreign tourists who misbehave. For how many years the prison sentence will be, that will be determined. It depends on the type of violation, he said. Apart from that, Pak Sandiaga also encouraged immigration authorities to promote the do's and don'ts. Okay, so this is here, it's done, right? The governor signed it. When is it going to be socialized? I don't know. Back to Pak Pohlmann here. He said that the case has been handled by the police and immigration. Currently, an investigation is still being carried out on the indecent actions that went viral. He said, we're still watching to see what immigration is going to do. However, he asked the authorities to expedite the prosecution process. We in the province of Bali are pushing for accelerated action against this tourist behavior. So, Stakes are going up. I said before, this is not going to end well. We're taking a place where you could do pretty much what you wanted to. You could have fun. You could hang around. You could learn about the culture. If you wanted to hang out at the beach all day, you could. You could ride motorbikes around the island. Because of bad behavior and because of cell phones and all this stuff going viral, they're going to start enforcing some rules. And if they had enforced the rules originally, all of this stuff, I think you'd see less of it. One of the main things here is enforcement. There's a lot of laws out here. All they have to do is be enforced, and be enforced regularly. Because they haven't been, and because this stuff continues to escalate, it looks like we may have some more restrictions on behavior here if you are a foreigner in Bali. And people will say, we'll go somewhere else. And yeah, that's definitely what may happen with a lot of people. But who knows? If you come here and you behave yourself, you can have a great time still. And let's hope that nothing severe comes out of this meeting tomorrow. And here's one more thing. White sand beach for rent. Indonesia rupee is 870 billion, right? Megawati said stop building. Koster said we're going to stop building. Listen to this. Bugbug Traditional Village in Karanasem agreed to lease Pasir Putih White Sand Beach in Bugbug Village for $870 billion. This is a contract period of 30 years, 145 hectares, or 14,500 acres. And it's being contracted by a potential investor from Dubai. The land is still under contract by an investor from South Korea. Okay, I didn't know that. And he took this, or he or his group, or her group, took this back in 2007, I guess, and they had 30 years, but they haven't done anything with it, and they've only paid 30% of what they were supposed to pay. 70% has not been paid off. And so they're going to give this to the group from Dubai, and according to one of the leaders here, he said, we don't really interested in what's going to happen between South Korea and Dubai. They can work this out themselves, but it's being taken away from South Korea and given over to Dubai. According to the Klian, the route to the White Sand Beach has been built with an access road of about 3 kilometers and a parking area of 1.5 hectares. The area is still natural. There are no buildings supporting tourism. The location is in a bay, which is the beach to the east. He said a lot of tourists come there to visit. White Sand Beach is pretty well known for tourists. A number of landowners, he said, have appreciated the decision to bring in potential investors to contract the land with the hope that it will provide jobs for the people there. Especially, he said, listen to this, if investors build 5-star hotels, restaurants, golf courses, and other tourist accommodations. You like going to White Sand Beach because you can kick back and you get a natural feel? Those days could be coming to an end. What happened to the ban on hotels? Remember I mentioned in the last one, it's still up to the localities, to the regencies, not to the central government. And he said that just because the land is being rented out and they're hoping for restaurants and hotels and golf courses and all that stuff that, well, rich foreigners like, he said that doesn't mean that they're getting the beach. Public access for tourism, Malasti, and prayers for the temple is going to be still available. He said we're contracting the land with a limit of 50 meters from offshore. Access for people who want to go to the beach will still be available. Looks like there are not many places left that are not going to be developed here. They're going to run this island dry. And that's it for today. There's a segment that I was going to do on a new visa that's coming up, investor's visa, golden visa. Just too much stuff today. I'll talk about that in the next one. I don't think it's going to affect most of the people that watch this channel, but who knows? Anyway, it's not ready yet. It is coming in the future, and I'll talk about it next time. Thanks for viewing. Be kind to someone today. Stay safe. See you next time.